You will not believe what we just discovered in space. 3I Atlas is not just a rock. It is not just a comet. It is hiding a secret geometric structure that might be, in its own terrifying way, alive. We are seeing it move. We are seeing it watch us. We pointed the James Webb Space Telescope at it. What we found is more chilling, more profound, and more terrifying than any theory about alien technology. And you need to see this now, before it disappears behind the sun. Stick around, because what happened next will permanently alter your perception of the universe. Right now, at this very moment, something extraordinary, something impossible is unfolding above our heads. If you are captivated by the profound mystery of 3I Atlas and demand to see more of these mind-bending cosmic stories, you need to smash that like button. Let the universe know you are watching. Every single click helps keep this search for the unknown alive. Just a few days ago, the James Webb Space Telescope, our golden eye in the dark, aimed its flawless mirrors toward the visitor racing through our solar system. The target, the interstellar traveler known as 3I Atlas. What it saw left the entire scientific community speechless. When Webb, our most powerful instrument, completed its deep spectroscopic scan on October 21st, the data that came back was unlike anything ever recorded in the history of astronomy. It was not the chaotic signature of a comet. It was not the inert profile of an asteroid. Inside this object, hidden beneath its cold, reflective surface, lies a pattern, a structure, a grid so impossibly precise that it defies the very laws of randomness that govern nature itself. The data shows that every internal layer, every structural component, is spaced apart by exactly 127 meters. Not 126.9, not 127.1, exactly 127 meters. This is perfect mathematical repetition, stretching through the entire structure like an invisible crystalline grid. In geology, in the natural formation of worlds, such precision simply does not exist. It cannot. Crystals, yes, they can form repeating molecular patterns on a microscopic scale, but never on the scale of city blocks. Never inside a comet-sized body forged in the chaos of a forming star system. That is when the realization hit the research team at the Space Telescope Science Institute. It was a cold, sinking feeling. They were not staring at geology, they were staring at geometry, not chaos, but design. Dr. Sarah Chen, the lead analyst on the project, was the first to break the stunned silence in the control room. Her words, captured on a hot mic, are now echoing in classified briefings around the world. He said, "We are not seeing a rock, we are seeing architecture, because when the cosmos, a place defined by beautiful, messy chaos, suddenly draws perfect, repeating mathematical straight lines, it is no longer random. It is engineered." That simple, terrifying fact that something built this object changes everything. It means 3I Atlas may not be just a visitor, just a chunk of debris randomly passing through our solar system. It means it may have been sent, and that is just the beginning. Only 12 hours after that first paradigm-shattering scan, something even more unnerving happened. The James Webb Telescope looked again, and this time the data had changed. The internal patterns inside 3I Atlas were no longer static. They were not the dead, inert layers of a lifeless object. The spectroscopic absorption bands, the chemical fingerprints, were in flux. Some signals grew stronger. Others faded away. Something within was moving. It was rearranging itself. It was as if the object itself was waking up. Think about that. An interstellar traveler, a machine or a structure, drifting silently for what could be millions or even billions of years, suddenly begins to reconfigure itself, to shift its internal geometry at the exact moment it nears our sun. It is as though the light, the heat, and the radiation from our star are acting like a cosmic alarm clock. It is reactivating systems that have been dormant since before the first humans ever walked the Earth. No natural body behaves like this. A comet does not shift its internal layers with perfect, repeating symmetry. An asteroid does not react to starlight like a living, breathing machine. Yet, the data is clear. 3I Atlas is responding. If this is true, then we are not just observing a comet. We may be witnessing something no human civilization has ever seen before. A ghost ship of the cosmos. A machine built by hands or minds that are long, long gone, still carrying out its ancient mission across the cold of eternity. No crew, no life as we know it. Just algorithms, metal and memory, drifting through the void. Dr. Chen calls it the most disturbing kind of discovery, because if 3I Atlas really is alive in its own mechanical, structural way, it means intelligence does not just fade away. It means it can outlive its creators. And as it accelerates minute by minute toward its closest approach to the sun, that awakening is speeding up. Systems are turning on. Configurations are shifting. Something inside 3I Atlas is preparing for something. That is the question that has every observatory on Earth staring upward in stunned silence. And it is the question that has every scientist wondering, are we ready for the answer? This is not a ghost ship. The data flooding in from the last 72 hours, as scientists dug deeper and deeper into the telemetry, has revealed a truth that is far stranger and far more terrifying. Every single measurement of 3I Atlas, from its mass to its motion, points to one single, unavoidable, and world-shattering conclusion. It does not behave like anything nature has ever built. First, let us talk about the mass anomaly. When astronomers first detect an object, they measure its brightness. From that and its distance, they can estimate its size. Based on its size and its icy reflective surface, 3I Atlas should have a mass of tens of billions of tons. It should be a mountain of rock and frozen gas. And a mountain of that size has gravity. It is a weak gravity, to be sure, but it is measurable. Earlier this month, as 3I Atlas passed the orbit of Mars, our probes and orbiters were perfectly positioned to measure that gravity. They were looking for the tiny gravitational tug, the slight pull that an object of that size should exert. They found nothing. The gravitational influence of 3I Atlas was so small it was almost zero. It barely registered on our most sensitive instruments. This is not a minor discrepancy. It means the object, while kilometers wide, is almost completely hollow. Think of what that means. A natural comet is a dirty snowball, a porous but solid aggregate of ice and dust packed together by eons of cold. 3I Atlas is not that. It is a shell. It is a facade. It is an object engineered to be incredibly large but impossibly lightweight. It is deliberately constructed for efficiency, built to travel across the unimaginable distances between light years without wasting mass or energy. Nature does not build hollow mountains. Civilizations do. Then came the rotation mystery. Almost every rock in space, from tiny asteroids to massive comets, spins unevenly. They are not perfect spheres. They are lumpy, potato-shaped, unbalanced objects. As they travel, they wobble, they tumble chaotically. This is the natural state of things, but not 3I Atlas. As we established, it rotates with perfect clock-like stability. Its spin is so exact, so metronomically precise, it could only exist under two conditions. Either it is a flawless, perfect sphere of uniform density, or it has an active control system. We know from the JWST images of its triangular geometry that it is not a perfect sphere. Therefore, the only remaining explanation is that it is actively, deliberately balancing itself. Think of a high-tech gyroscope spinning silently within its core, or a complex system of internal mass shifting, or thousands of micro thrusters. all working in perfect synchronicity to counteract any tumble to maintain a flawless, stable orientation. Nature does not do perfection like that. Machines do. And then, as if to remove all possible doubt, came the detail that broke the silence in every control room on the planet. The final, undeniable proof. Between late September and early October, as 3I Atlas was accelerating toward the Sun, it slowed down. Let me say that again. While falling into the Sun's massive gravity well, it hit the brakes. The change was tiny, just a fraction of a kilometer per second, but it was unmistakable. It was a clear, deliberate deceleration. Comets do not hit the brakes. They cannot. They are slaves to physics. They are pulled by gravity and pushed by sunlight. Nothing in nature can create a retrograde force like that. The only thing in the entire universe that can decelerate as it falls toward a star is something with thrusters. Something that is deliberately choosing to slow its approach. Put these three pieces together. An object that is impossibly lightweight, practically hollow. An object that spins with the perfect, stable balance of a machine. An object that actively fires its own engines to decelerate against the pull of gravity. The image is no longer a matter of speculation. It is an unavoidable conclusion based on the data. We are not looking at a rock. We are looking at a vehicle. Dr. Avi Loeb, the astronomer from Harvard who was once ridiculed for his theories about Oumuamua, had famously proposed the idea of self-replicating interstellar probes, theoretical machines called von Neumann probes. Explorers capable of building perfect copies of themselves from local materials, using the asteroids and moons of a star system as raw resources, and then spreading like seeds through the stars. For decades, this was pure, high-concept science fiction. 3I Atlas may be the first terrifying proof that it is science fact. If this is true, this moment, right now, marks the first time in human history that our civilization has ever detected an artificial technological object from another civilization. And it is not a dead drifting relic. It is still functioning. It is still obeying ancient code written long before Earth's first cities ever existed. But that cold, stark realization, as terrifying as it is, only raises a second, even more haunting question. 3I Atlas is a machine. Who or what built it? We are looking at a vehicle, a hollow, self-propelled ancient machine. This is the new, terrifying reality that has been established behind the locked doors of NASA and the European Space Agency. The data is undeniable. But this realization, as world-shattering as it is, only serves as a doorway to a second, far more personal and far more disturbing question. 3I Atlas is a machine. Who built it? And after 10 billion years, why is it here? This is where the story turns from a cosmic mystery into something aimed directly at us. For over 100 years, our planet, Earth, has been shouting into the darkness. We have been the noisiest, most obvious civilization in this sector of the galaxy. Every radio broadcast, every television show, every military radar sweep, every satellite transmission, all of it has been leaking out from our atmosphere, forming a constantly expanding electromagnetic beacon, a bubble of noise stretching across dozens of light years. Every single pulse, from the first Morse code signals to last night's football game, is an announcement to the universe. A constant screaming broadcast that says, "We are here, we are here, we are here." We have been shouting into the void, assuming no one was listening. Now, imagine this. An ancient machine, a von Neumann probe, drifts silently through the cold darkness between stars, coasting for millions, perhaps billions of years. Its mission? To explore, to observe, and to replicate. It is dormant, saving power, waiting for a sign. And then, decades ago, it passes through the outer edge of our solar system, and it hears us. It detects the faint, structured, artificial noise of our radio signals. It recognizes the mathematical non-natural patterns of our transmissions. It has found us. Physicists and intelligence analysts are now working under a new, terrifying hypothesis. 3. I-Atlas may have heard us long before we ever noticed it. Think about that. While our telescopes were still blind to it, while we were still arguing about whether life existed elsewhere, this thing may have already scanned our planet from the darkness. It may have mapped our transmissions, decoded our languages, and recognized us as a young, emerging technological species. This one chilling idea suddenly reframes everything. It explains the entire sequence of events. That mysterious deceleration, that was not a recent decision. That was the probe, decades ago, firing its thrusters to deliberately alter its trajectory, to slow its billion-year journey just enough to ensure a precise pass through our inner solar system. That waking up that the James Webb Telescope observed, the internal reconfigurations, the geometric patterns shifting, that was not the sun acting as an alarm clock. That was the probe reaching the final phase of its mission. Those were not random shifts. Those were systems coming online. Those were sensors, data cores, and communication arrays, all powering up one by one, preparing to observe and record us in high fidelity. Not to contact, not to attack, but simply to study. And that is what makes this moment so much more unnerving. If 3I-Atlas is an autonomous probe, it does not need our permission. It does not operate on a moral framework we would recognize. It simply follows its programming. It obeys its ancient core instructions, a set of algorithms written by a civilization that may have turned to dust before the first mammals ever evolved on this planet. Dr. Sarah Chen, the astronomer who first saw the internal geometry, is now calling this the ghost ship scenario. It is a future where civilizations die, but their machines live on. They drift faithfully through the void, carrying out ancient orders for masters who are long since extinct. If that is what 3I-Atlas is, then it is not just an interstellar visitor. It is a message from extinction itself. It is a cold, mechanical reflection of what happens when intelligence outlasts life. It is a ghost, a 10 billion-year-old ghost that has just arrived in our home. And here is the part that is making military theorists and physicists truly uneasy. If one of these probes exists, there are probably many. The von Neumann logic is inescapable. The core directive of such a probe is not just to explore, it is to replicate, to find raw materials, asteroids, moons, debris, and to build endless copies of itself. Exploring, watching, building, spreading, waiting. So maybe when we stare up at the night sky, the real question is not, are we alone? Maybe the real terrifying question is, how many of these things are already out there? How many are watching us right now? And if 3I-Atlas is just the first one to reveal itself, what is it preparing to do next? What is the final phase of its ancient mission? Astronomers and the secret military cells now monitoring them expected 3I-Atlas to pass quietly. They had accepted its mechanical nature, its hollow core, and its impossible propulsion. The new, terrifying baseline was that an ancient alien vehicle was coasting through our system. The strategy shifted from discovery to one of tense, passive observation. They expected it to just leave. Then the unthinkable happened. High-resolution imagery from the James Webb Space Telescope and the brand new Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile, which was running its final diagnostic tests, began showing something new. Tiny, reflective points of light. They were detaching from the main body of 3I-Atlas. At first, scientists tried to normalize it. They fell back on the old, comfortable explanations. This was debris. It was ice shedding from the nucleus. It was a natural fragmentation event, a common behavior for a comet as it gets closer to the sun's heat. But debris does not move in perfect, synchronized formation. The fragments, dozens of them, were not tumbling chaotically. They were not drifting apart on the solar wind. They were coordinated. They moved with a chilling geometric precision, shifting, rotating, and aligning themselves around the main body like a trained, intelligent swarm. They maintained perfect, equal distances from one another. NASA's initial response, in a public statement, was cautious. They were forced to address the rumors, and they officially called it fragment shedding behavior, a bland, boring, technical term designed to calm the public. Unofficially, internal logs and emails leaked by a terrified engineer just hours ago used a very different term, a term that is not in any astronomy textbook: deployment pattern. If that is true, if that one phrase is accurate, then 3I Atlas is not just an active, intelligent probe. It is a carrier. It is a hive. And it is releasing something. Maybe they are smaller probes. Maybe they are sensors. Maybe they are transmitters. They are instruments designed to scatter, to observe, to map. Each one a tiny autonomous node potentially gathering high-fidelity data on our star, our planets, and yes, on us. Now, here is the strange part. The moment those fragments appeared, Earth-based radio telescopes, from Arecibo's surviving array to the new FAST telescope in China, picked up a new signal. It was not the 1.42 gigahertz hydrogen line. That signal, the hello, was gone. This was something new. It was a faint, repeating pulse at a frequency that is not naturally produced by any known cosmic source. It was not a broadcast like a radio station. It was more like a ping. It was a short, sharp, repeating pulse, and it was bouncing through multiple frequencies at once. Some researchers, in a state of growing dread, described it as a scan, as if 3I Atlas, or its newly deployed swarm, was building a three-dimensional, high-resolution image of everything within its range, a form of cosmic sonar, or radar, that could map our entire solar system in a matter of hours. And yet, no one can trace where that pulse is originating. This is the mystery that is breaking our best computers. It is not pointed directly at Earth. It is not aimed at the sun. It seems to be radiating from everywhere all at once. A spherical wave of information spreading out like a sonar ping across the vastness of space. So, what if these fragments, this swarm, are part of a distributed intelligence? What if they are not just dumb sensors reporting back to a mothership? What if they are tiny nodes communicating with each other, forming a single networked consciousness, a hive mind, stretching across millions of kilometers of empty space? If that is the case, 3I Atlas is not one machine. It is many linked, alive in a way we can barely comprehend. And as it moves closer to the sun, the swarm is expected to activate fully. The pings are getting stronger. The fragments are drawing in solar energy, their thermal signatures climbing, not from heat, but from power. They are charging, they are preparing for something. The question is no longer just who built it. The question is, what is it about to do? What happens next could redefine everything we know about technology, about evolution, and about the future of intelligence itself. Because that signal, that omnidirectional ping, what if it is not just a sonar scan? What if it is a signal meant to be heard by something else? The pings were just the beginning. It began subtly. A faint electromagnetic ripple detected across multiple independent observatories. At first, it seemed like random cosmic noise, the background hiss of the galaxy, but when scientists, their hands trembling, overlaid the data from different telescopes, a pattern emerged. It was not noise. Hidden deep inside the static, a repeating structured sequence became undeniable. The signal matched the trajectory of 3I Atlas perfectly. It was not coming from space in general, it was coming from the object. Now, this is where things become truly extraordinary. The pulse is not broadcasting in one direction. It is not aimed at Earth. It is aimed outward, away from our sun, into the deep, dark void. and it is layered, cycling through a complex series of frequencies like an encrypted military-grade code. Every single burst of data lasts exactly 127 milliseconds. That number, 127, the exact same number in meters that the James Webb Telescope measured in its internal geometric structure. This cannot be a coincidence. It is a signature, it is a mathematical fingerprint, a stamp from the builder that says, I am here, I am awake. So, what is it doing? Some theorists believe 3I Atlas has now entered its primary, so-called data relay phase. It is taking all the information it has gathered from its swarm, all the scans of our world, our technology, our planet, and it is beaming it all somewhere far beyond our reach. But others, in hushed and terrified tones, suggest something even more unsettling. It is not just reporting, it is calling home. If that is true, then this machine is not just a silent observer. It is reporting back across unimaginable distances of space and time to whoever or whatever sent it here. A civilization that may have built this probe before our species even learned to write. And here is the detail buried in the data that is keeping scientists awake at night. The transmission contains structured silence, long, perfect gaps of absolute stillness between the bursts of complex data. In cryptography, in intelligence, silence is never empty. It is intentional. It is a pause that carries meaning, like punctuation in a sentence or a breath in a conversation. Some physicists now believe those pauses are not just pauses. They are instructions. Or, even more terrifying, they are an acknowledgement from a receiver we cannot detect. A receiver that is answering back. If this communication is two-way, it means somewhere out there, something is listening, and it is replying. But that raises the biggest question of all. Why now? Why activate here, near our sun, near Earth, near the only planet in this entire system that has the technology to understand, however poorly, what is happening? A famous scientist once said, the universe is a library, and we have just opened the first page. Maybe 3I Atlas is that first page. A story written not in words, but in code, in geometry, and in a silence that is louder than any explosion. And maybe it is not the only page. For decades, we have dreamed of the moment humanity might finally hear something from the stars, but no one, in their most profound dreams or their darkest nightmares, expected the reply to come this soon, or from within our own solar system. What if decoding this signal acts like a key, a trigger meant to awaken or activate something dormant, either within the object itself or within the vast dark network it belongs to? Some researchers have already issued stark, classified warnings against any further attempts to reconstruct the code, suggesting it might be a containment signal, not an invitation. A cosmic firewall not meant to be broken. But others believe this could be the Rosetta Stone of the universe, the final, absolute proof that intelligence can and does transcend biology, physics, and even time itself. And now, as the object approaches its perihelion, its closest point to our sun, the signal is getting stronger. It is feeding. Whatever 3I Atlas is, it is preparing for the final phase of something monumental. As it nears its closest pass, our solar observatories, the ones built to watch the sun, have begun to pick up something no one expected: a flare shadow. Every time the sun releases a burst of radiation, a solar flare, a faint, impossible echo of that light, curves back, bending unnaturally around the object. It is as if space itself is being manipulated, distorted by whatever field surrounds this thing. NASA calls it an optical anomaly. But privately, in panicked emails, physicists have begun using a different term: a containment field. A bubble of distorted space-time that could only be generated by a level of technology, a mastery of physics, far beyond anything we can imagine. Then something changes. The swarm, those fragments it released earlier, begin to move again. They stop their sonar-like pinging and begin to spiral inward, back toward the central body. Not chaotically, but in perfect, synchronized unison. They align themselves along its magnetic poles, forming symmetrical, glowing rings that are now visible even in infrared. And for the first time since it entered our system, 3I Atlas begins to emit its own raw energy. This is not reflected sunlight. This is a pulse of structured radiation so clean, so coherent, that it resembles a machine of unimaginable scale, finally powering on. The readings are impossible. The energy signature does not match any known chemical reaction. It does not match any nuclear or fusion reaction. It is clean. It is coherent. It is almost like a quantum engine, turning the raw radiation of our sun directly into ordered motion, a machine feeding on our star's light. Every telescope on Earth and in orbit has locked onto it. We are watching it happen in real time. The object is physically shifting its shape. The plates, the triangular patterns, are sliding into a new alignment. The symmetrical geometry within it, the 127-meter grid, has begun to vibrate, to resonate at a measurable frequency. It is not random. It is coordinated. It is the sound of an engine engaging. At this exact moment, the Fibonacci-based spiral signal that it was broadcasting into deep space stops. It is replaced by a single, deafening, continuous tone. For the first time, we may be witnessing a non-human technology interacting directly and purposefully with our star. And if that is true, we have just entered an entirely new and terrifying chapter of cosmic history. One where humanity is no longer the only thing in the solar system making choices,